Hello. Today I'm going to be talking about outlining and about how doing a proper outline might just be the smart thing to do. I've been doing a lot of research around outlining books and plotting and so on, and I've looked at a whole bunch of AuthorTube videos, I've read a whole bunch of articles, I've delved into the more technical aspects of novel outlining, and what I found is that there are two general schools of thought when it comes to outlining. There are some authors that prefer not to outline too much, and there are other authors that prefer to outline a lot, and then of course there's a spectrum in between. I'm well into writing my book, Ash in the Air, the second book I've ever written, and this one I hope is to be a touch more successful. But I outlined quite heavily, and being a young author, being a new writer, essentially a new writer, I found that the outlining process is actually a big part of the fun when it comes to writing a novel. I don't really understand how people can start writing a novel without an outline. Kudos to you. Please do explain to me how you actually manage to finish books. Because finishing books is fucking hard, and if you don't have a plan, it does not compute in my head. So come at me with some enlightenment if you're what they call a pantser. The second thing that's great about outlining your book before you start is that you can write and world build while you outline. So I outlined everything, and let me take you to an example of what my outline looked like. So you'll see that I'm some sort of freak of nature. I do my outlines in Google Sheets online. I do all of my work online. I don't do anything in Microsoft Office because backups and fear of losing work. It's happened to me before. But you'll see that I am quite thorough when it comes to outlining. I start with a thread, and then I go into plotline and subplot. Decide on what the character viewpoint is, write a one-line summary, and then I go into a more detailed summary of what exactly is going to happen in that chapter, followed by key information that I want to include in that chapter. And then once I've done that, and once I've outlined a significant portion, I'll come back and I will do this thing that I call a heart pace. So basically it's just an indicator of how fast I want your heart rate to be moving as my reader when I'm writing and when you're reading. And I also come back and do chapter and character links. I do a lot of world building while I'm outlining. That's why it's so fun for me. And I also write a lot while I outline. I don't see any of it as exclusive processes. Write, world build, and outline at the same time. The key thing to have done by the end is to have a firm outline so that you know exactly where you're going and what you're doing with your book. The next thing that I have to say about outlining your book before you start or while you're starting is that it helps you externalize yourself from your book. What I mean by that is that we get so damn close to our own work and we find it so precious. And okay, I'm gonna back up. I won't do the rest of the video like that. We get so close to our work, and it's often a writer's downfall that they are so close to their work. And of course there are different strategies to use to remove yourself from your work. Of course there's the getting beta readers, and there's the whole editing process, various different types of editing processes. But essentially before you start writing, the outlining process helps you look at things like pace, plot lines, summaries, trimming fat that doesn't need to be in the book. It's basically your editing process before you start, so that when you do start, you start well and you get all the way to the end in a timely manner that's effective. So the second to last thing that I'll say about outlining is that it helps you write smart. So I don't know if you've heard of someone called J.K. Rowling. Maybe you haven't. But one of the things that J.K. Rowling is so good at is Easter eggs, as well as linking back to things that she mentioned in book 1, and then she brings it back up in book 7 years and years later. And that's because she outlined, and the outline enabled her to put little secrets, little Easter eggs in the beginning stages of the book, so that and then remember them in the later stages of writing the series or writing the book. And I think that's one of the true powers of outlining, is that you begin to start creating an interconnectivity within the story that really makes for very engaging reading and aha moments, and you get to take your reader on a mystery through the world, instead of kind of just blundering through the story. I'm not talking about you, pantsers. So the last thing I'll say about outlining your book, and it's really the thing that I've found helped me the most, is it helped me figure out where to start my book, and where and how I wanted it to unfold in a way that made me feel a lot more in control. So I showed you my sheet. What I could basically do with that is click and drag different sections around, so that it became like a puzzle piece. If you'll watch Jenna Moresi's story video on outlining, you'll see that she does it with a big whiteboard. I do mine with an Excel spreadsheet, and it really makes it so easy to decide where I want to start, how I want the middle to go, and where I want it to end. So that's all I have to say about that. Those are my thoughts based on my research around outlining. I hope that you could take something useful from my thoughts. Maybe there's some nuggets of truth that will help inspire you to outline. But if outlining isn't your thing and you're still writing amazing stuff, then that's awesome. We all do what we've got to do in the way that we've got to do it. And as long as you're bringing your beauty into the world, and you're creating and you're finishing books and you're getting into the marketing process, I love it. Finally, just a quick update on where I am at the moment in my writing journey. I've nearly finished with my first 10 chapters, as well as my 3 prologues. Yes, I have 3 prologues. Suck it, Brandon Sanderson said it's okay. So that's what I'm doing. And once they're done, and once I've been through an editing process and I've had a couple of beta readers to read them, then I will be putting them up on LitNet. Why LitNet, you ask? Because I'm not hoping to make $1 million and become a world famous author of this first book. As much as I love the book that I'm writing, I know how things go. So this is a learning journey for me, and I hope that you continue to write with me.